Hey guys, this is Eric Weingartner with Weingartner Racing. I was going to have the video out for today that was going to be about the big block Ford that we had dyno tested a few weeks ago. I'm still working on that video, so that's what should have been today. It just didn't happen. But this one's a thank you, and this has to do with the Steve Morris video that I put out last weekend, and then Steve just did he just added me into it, and I want to thank him for that, and I want to thank you guys for your responses too. And there's more to this video than just that, so please just watch more than like 3 minutes, please. But because really, thank you so much for what you commented, and especially Steve Morris even bringing it up. But right now I'm going to help Steve Morris first, so because he was nice enough. And don't take this as offense, even though when I say that to people, they do it anyway. And I'm not really trying to be offensive. But he said he still can't see how in that time that the air could pass through the valve in that split second that it's open. So what I did though, I don't have what he's looking for exactly, but I have this. This is in real time. This is a fish eating a hot dog that's this long, and in real time you're watching it. And even if you watch it, the fish sucked in that hot dog and all the water that was around that in less than a second, and that's a fish. So yeah, you can move the entire length of the intake port in that time. And no, it's not being sarcastic. It just really helps you visualize things when you see it like that. So hopefully that might help you, Steve. And I'm not trying to make fun of you, I swear to God. I did find that video amazing though anyway. But thank you for watching and responding. And Steve, just to save you, I'm not doing another video like this because I hate when people beat to death on some of the stuff. So you can either trust the math or not, or trust information or not. But I do want to go over the math a little bit more, because one of the things I have to thank everybody else for is when I was looking at the comments, and several people had said it, and actually probably had 3 or 4 different engineers that called me up and he said, you know, your math's not wrong on parts of this. There's some errors in some parts because I had to make assumptions, which I said, but they said you could have done something way, 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 way easier. And I wish I had thought about it. It wasn't that I was trying to make not do that, but the way easier thing to do is volumetric efficiency. For those that don't know, I'm going to try to explain it. If an engine, in this case, he had a 540 cubic inch naturally aspirated engine. I don't know how many comments thought it was boosted, but it's naturally aspirated. So if you have a 540 cubic inch engine, if it's 100% volumetric efficient, that means it will, in one revolution, it will bring in all 540 cubic inches of air. That's 100% volumetric efficiency. Now, here's the thing. Naturally aspirated engines that are really well actually have a higher volumetric efficiency. So for instance, this is from my 540 Dynamill, and I told that I didn't use the flow benches, and people assumed that on the information too. No, the flow numbers wasn't based on the flow benches. They're based on this. So here's my dyno chart from a 540 Dynamill of mine. This airflow that you see here is measured from an air hat. So it's above the carburetor. It's exactly how much air is brought in. From that's calculated. That's the volumetric efficiency. So in this case, at 6,700 RPM, just for this pull, and this was only making 827 in this configuration, it had 102.8% volumetric efficiency. But assuming, let's just do it generic, the most generic ever. And judging by the horsepower numbers that Steve made on his dyno, he was making more than 100% volumetric efficiency. I didn't want to do the math to figure it out exactly because I just didn't. And also it's harder without the air hat. But this is the easiest math, period. If you have 100% volumetric efficiency, that's 540 cubic inches. Divided by 8, that's 67.5 cubic inches of air went into that engine at that RPM, at 7,000 RPM that he talks about. So 67.5 cubic inches. But remember, the runners, we measure those not in cubic inches. We measure the volume of a cylinder head, which I got back here, is measured in cc's. So there's an easy conversion for this, and I use ChatGPT for this, but I said convert 67.5 cc's or cubic inches to cc's. It's 1,105.62 cc's. So actually, I was underestimating, and that was overestimating. I don't have to even know the camshaft specs or none of that stuff for this part of how much actual air went through. The other thing he said I was wrong with was the time that it takes to that the cycle happens. It's 100% correct. This is actually simpler math in a way. If you look at the word 7,000 RPM, the R stands for revolutions, P per, M for minute. So it's going 7,000 times per minute. There are 60 seconds in a minute. So if you're like, okay, how many seconds though, or how much time does it actually take to go over once? All you have to do is take 60 seconds and you divide it by 7,000. That's the minute, that's the 60, divided by 7,000, and you'll know the exact amount of time it took for the engine to turn over one time. And in that, it only takes 0.00857 seconds for it to turn over one time. Now, remember, the intake valve's not open the entire time it turns. That's impossible. And you might say, why? Because it's a 4-stroke engine. We have one where it's compressing and it explodes. On the next stroke, the exhaust and then the intake opens, closes. You get the idea. So the calculation that I had used, we had to do some kind of what percent of the entire time of this 0.00857 seconds is the intake valve open. That was a guess because of his camshaft duration. I don't know. I assume 300 degrees advertised. So when you do that, 360 degrees, it's not doing anything, plus another 360 somewhere in those two cycles, which is 720 degrees of rotation, 300 of those degrees, the intake valve's open. That gave me a percent of the total time, and that's why it ended up being 3,000ths of a second that the intake valve's open. And a little bit more, but whatever. That's where that came from. But I want to thank the engineers that reached out to me to do the volumetric efficiency, because that was the longer part of the equation. But long story short, the volumetric efficiency of the engine just didn't even have to care about time at that point, but that proves everything. You for sure moved all that volume. You had to have. You simply had to have. So thank you so much for the engineers that reached out and other people that have also reached out. Thank you so much for that. I'm very grateful for you guys that chimed in. I wish I'd thought of that way of thinking, but sometimes my mind likes to go different ways. Sometimes it's the wrong way. But I want to address two other things that were happening in the comments. So hopefully you've watched to this point, because this is the major one that came up. And Steve never said this, so don't pretend that Steve said this comment. But literally in all of the well, not all, but the majority of the comments, this was the most common thing said, and didn't come from Steve's mouth. Say that again. The most common thing said was, it's totally different with boost. Even though the engine we were talking about that Steve was running was NA. But Steve didn't say that. Commenters kept saying, it's all different with boost. It's all different with boost. Because of that comment, I'm going to specifically do tests. If you notice, it says, I tested that. If you're new to my channel, watch the old stuff. You'll be surprised at sheer number of ideas and theories that I have tested. Like he's fixing to test, Steve is, fuels like, now I didn't do it with nitrous. I don't spray nitrous on the dyno, but we've done methanol, E85, race gas, street pump gas. All that's been on the same combinations. But because of what you said, I'm going to do it. And I think I know exactly how I'm going to test that, because I have it's usually Boost Brothers. I don't know if that's actually people, but I mean Boost Brothers, anybody that's in Boost somehow think that cylinder head flow means nothing. You just make it up with Boost. So here's the plan for the test. Do I know when it's going to happen? No, but I'm going to focus like a son of a gun, especially next year, to make this test happen, because I want to disprove that whole thought that goes there where it doesn't matter what it flows with Boost, because that's pretty much what they're saying each time. Doesn't matter what it flows when it's under Boost. So what I've got several dyno mule engines. For those that don't know and you're new, here's what I've got. An LS 408 cubic inch dyno mule. Use it a ton, used it for the cam challenge. I have a 383 small block Chevy dyno mule, a 421 dyno mule, 421 circle track dyno mule. Those are all small block Chevys. 350 small block Chevy that we tried blowing up, a 540 dyno mule big block Chevy, a 408 small block Ford dyno mule, and a 427 small block Ford dyno mule, a Gen 3 Hemi as well. There's a bunch of engines. The one I'm probably going to do it on is the LS because it's most common. But here's what's going to happen. I'm probably going to take a crappy set of heads, say I shouldn't say crappy, a less than good flowing set of heads, like maybe a set of 706 heads. And I'm going to bolt them on, and I'm going to put a supercharger on, not turbo, just because it's easier for me. But I'm going to put a turbo on, or not turbo, but a typical supercharger with multiple pulleys so I can keep adjusting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like 5, 10, 15 pounds of boost, all right? And I'm going to put that 706 on. First we're going to run NA, 5, 10, 15, right? Pounds of boost. So we'll have 4 dyno pulls with that, each different NA, 5, 10, 15, right? Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to a phenomenal set of heads that flow more, or actually a medium set and then a phenomenal set. So 3 different sets of cylinder heads. 706s typically don't flow that well. Then we're going to go something that flows really well, then something that flows fantastic. But here's the thing, because here's what happens with most of those cylinder head tests. I'm going to make sure that they're all the same combustion chamber size, because a lot of times the reason why the 706 does so well is because it has more compression ratio, because its chamber is smaller. But if I don't do the 706 head, I'm going to do a head that flows the same but has the same cylinder head volume across the board. So compression ratio never changes. And we're going to see. I guess we'll find out if flow doesn't matter when you have boost. Because according to what you're saying, I should make as much power with the heads that flow crappy at 15 pounds of boost as the ones that flow really good at 15 pounds of boost. Because that's what you're saying when you say that. So we need to have some dyno tests that prove it. And you might say, why don't you bump it up? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll go 20 pounds. The supercharger I have from TorqueStorm, I don't know, it did do 22 pounds on the 350. I don't know that it'll do that on the LS because it's so big. And also it breathes more air, so doubt it. But still, maybe. Who knows? I've got the pair of turbos. Maybe we will put those on there. But I am going to test that theory because I know what I think to be right. But that's just talking. You want to see it proven. So I'm going to do my best to make that happen. You have my word. That's the next video. Or not next video, but that's the next major test that will take place. I will do that. I shouldn't say the next, but that's the next major one. It's going to happen. You have my word on that. This time next year, you'll have an answer before this time next year, I should say. Okay, so there's that comment I really wanted to get to. And thanks for that. And then the last thing is I wanted to leave with probably the best comment I heard on all of them. I mean, and this was a crown jewel, if you will. So I thought I'd share it with you guys because you know the internets. And this one, like, I don't like to necessarily pick on people, but I'm going to, this is it. So let's just show you, let's just let you see the comment first, okay? And then I'll show you my response, and then I'll show you something else. But I won't say anything more about it, but this is the winner for the internet being the internet. This is the Warren he's talking about. Oh, well, this is his book. The internet. Gotcha, bitch. Well, that wraps it up. The only other thing I want to leave with is if you're one of the people that also commented, where's your car? You're right. Steve's cars will be faster than mine, I can tell you, forever. Forever. If I had $250,000 to sink into my Camaro, I would rather have a nice CNC machine sitting here. If I had the money for a stacker and stuff, I'd rather have a CNC machine here. So no, I wouldn't invest it in the car. And sadly, I've got 2 cars, and I think they're relatively nice. I really love the Camaro, and I don't have time to race them because I'm doing work. So there's only one other guy that kind of helps out in the shop part-time, and so that's all on me. So yeah, I'll give you that. He wins, and you can't argue with success at all. I'm telling you that now. He is faster than me in a car, guaranteed. I think that'll about wrap it up. You get the point. And again, nothing against Steve. So if you want to make it about Steve, then that's on you. Steve actually emailed me, by the way, and he said he's not offended. And I'm not trying to offend him or make him angry in any way. I would like to do the valve job. By the way, you're like, did you guys get a chance to collaborate then? Is he gonna? No, he's not. He didn't mention that at all. But I know Dominic has a set of the AFR 335 Enforcer heads. And that was what he used. And we used them for our 496 dyno mule as well. I shouldn't say ours, but it was Dominic's engine. But those are completely stock. So it's not, I thought about asking Dominic if I could use those heads, because I'd just do exactly what I said on the video. I would just redo the valve job and dyno it. And then I would do what he did and then dyno it, just for fun. But it's not, again, and I know the sheer number of percent of people that make it to this part of the video is small, but I have nothing against Steve. I like it. I like his videos. I like what he does. He's a solid guy. So as far as I could tell, I don't know, maybe he kicks cats or something that I don't know about, but from what I could tell, he's a good guy, and I have nothing against him. I just don't agree with that statement, and I'm sure he doesn't agree with me either on the flow bench stuff. And by the way, these are not, I need to point this out again. As cool as these tools are, they're just tools, and they're not 100% every time. That makes the world of difference. That was the other thing that happened. It's not the everything. It's just the something. So anyway, guys, I am no Superman. I did race Superboy. I don't port cast iron heads. You guys take care.